Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 129 of the Essential Wrestling Podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm John DeConti, keeping the driver's seat warm for our buddy Karl, who's off doing grown-up things. And we're here to take you through the week that was and preview a big upcoming week of wrestling action. Powered as always, but easier to deliver. Feel that power. Taste that power. Whatever. Who cares? There's power. Here with me, staying up late across the pond, is our expert on all things UK and soon to be all of Europe, Gary Mehaffy. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. I'm still waiting on the day. I mean, slowly but surely, I'm going from UK to Europe. So very soon, I'll be coming back over and taking over North America again as well, and we'll be conquering like the continent. I'll be teaching you how to speak properly and stuff. So
the empire is spreading. And also with us is our resident NXT guru.
And number 4, John Smith.
How are you, John?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream.
Very good. All right. On tonight's show, it was ladies' night last week. Nope. Let's try that again. It was ladies' triple threat night last night on Raw. SmackDown crowned a new World Cup champion. Impact got back to business after taking a week off, and they seemed once again to wish an outgoing employee the best of luck in all their future endeavors by having them murdered. AEW unveiled a new take on their world title and may have also said goodbye to an employee. And Ring of Honor will main event our show as we make our picks for their upcoming Final Battle pay-per-view. But we'll kick things off like we usually do with NXT because they're also bringing us a premium live event this weekend. And we'll make our picks for that and all the shows this week, which, of course, are sponsored by ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Play against your friends. Play against the universe. And fellas, you know how the rest goes. Let me get back to the names there. Here we go. Oh, of course. It's all right. I don't need that there because the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the Raw roll-up graphics for last week. AEW hit the 50 mark. Raw 6 behind, and Impact sneaky, just hanging out there. And let's go. Okay, so we're going to go to NXT, and there is an NXT premium live event. So let's take a look at how we're all doing on PWP.com. And to put it briefly, not good. At least not the three of them here in front of you today. Here are our individual NXT standings. And let me repeat that I hate this brand, mostly for what it does to me when we're here picking for points. And here is what's going on Deadline. It is there will be a world title match, an NXT title match, that is. That'll be 15 points. All other title matches, which as it stands right now, there are none, would have been 9. Regular matches will be 3. Kickoff matches will count. Doesn't look like we're going to have them. We'll have to check with Al if there's any bump for the gimmick matches since the Iron Survivor is a new thing. And if you go Hennig, you get the big 15-point bonus.
I would think it would be like probably a 15-point match for those whatever they're called matches.
Yeah, the Iron Survivor Challenge. I agree. Yeah, there usually is. There's usually a gimmick bump for whether it's a cage match or anything like that. So, all right, let's jump back into last week's NXT, which early on had one of my new favorites that, I laughed at him for just being awful to begin with, but I'm warming up to him, and that's Big Body Javi. He was backstage with Mackenzie. They've put their personal issues behind them, and Javi declared that it was Big Body Tuesday, and therefore there would be a sale on all Big Body merch, including his BBC. That's Big Body Cologne, ladies and gentlemen. Axiom interrupted because he had heard Javi had wanted to fight with him. So that here I am. It's time. Let's do it. It didn't happen immediately, but later on in the evening, we did get Axiom versus Javier Bernal, and Gary's going to tell you all about it.
Yeah, I mean, we started off the way you'd expect. Axiom, as you say, takes over everybody's new favorite wrestler. Must be Big Body Javi. And Axiom in control, although Javi fights back and takes over and gets a lot of kicks in and sends Axiom's leg into the ring post and so on. But Axiom again back to more submissions. But Javi hits a power bomb in the figure four. But just as he thinks, as he's gonna kind of kick into higher gear, Axiom reverses stuff, reverses the figure four. Javier crawls to the bottom rope and breaks it. Axiom does try to hit his finisher, but Javi moves out of the way. But when he goes for the pin, he doesn't get it, but Javi goes to the top. But Axiom delivers an enziguri and a superplex and manages to hit his golden ratio. And unfortunately for Javi, he's lying on his back and taking the 1, 2, 3.
I love that. Although I like watching his other finisher that I'm not sure how to name, that slingshot moonsault DDT thing. I love the name, the Golden Ratio. It's just a jumping sidekick, but it's got a cool name, so I'm all for that. Okay. Also on that show last week, we had a main event. It was going to be the three ladies from Toxic Attraction versus Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, who are your tag champs, and Nikita Lyons. Zoe Stark jumped Nikita Lyons. This was going to happen early on in the show. Nikita got jumped. She wound up in the trainer's room. Trainer told her, no permanent damage. You're good to go. It's just a matter of your pain tolerance. So we did eventually get the match. And it went all over the place. The bombastic babes of botch hit a high-low on Nikita. And Nikita didn't help them either. Those two are easy. Those two screw stuff up enough on their own. Nikita was moving till the very last second, so neither one of them knew where to kick her to knock her down. So it was a goofy finish, but in the end, Toxic Attraction took the win. And Zoe Stark was up on that riser in the crowd, just kind of waving and, happy with the fact that she played a part in making sure Nikita was not 100% for that one. Also in the women's division, Elektra Lopez admitted that she attacked Indy Hartwell because she sees her as the heart of the women's division there at NXT. Alba Fire had a little vignette where she told Isla Dawn that fun that she was talking about the two of them having, when it came time for her to actually get her hands on her, it would be anything but fun. And then we had a vignette for a young lady running around in the woods, playing with some bird feathers. And at the end of it all, I've spent way too much time learning how to pronounce and spell Aoife Valkyrie for no good reason. Gary, tell us a little bit about Lyra Valkyria.
Yeah, Lyra Valkyria, which shocked me. As I said, I was kind of looking through and heard this and went, that sounds like Aoife, it must be. And it is. I mean, Aoife is tremendous. I've seen her from over here, and like from about 2 or 3 matches in. I've seen her and watched her whole career come up and so on. And she's like been the top female performer over here for a few years. Got a big break in NXT UK. Loving the fact that she's going to get an opportunity now, stateside. So everybody needs to watch out. She is going places. So.
Now, can you tell us? Did she have any big rivals over in UK? I saw her once or twice, but was there any storylines that might carry over to here? Some particular enemies?
She had it was one of those ones that was back and forward, because sometimes I wondered whether they were going to make her a heel, and she wasn't a heel and she was a face. There was some stuff with Isla Dawn, but Isla Dawn kind of had stuff going on with everybody. She did have a little bit of an injury at one point, which took her out. So just as she was kind of moving in, we were hopeful that she might get a go with. Oh, I keep going to call her B Priestley, and we're not B Priestley, and her name goes right in. But it's like we were hopeful that we're heading towards that, and then she got injured. So there was nothing major, but.
Well, if this is an excuse for them to bring Blair back, then that would be awesome.
My name is Blair.
Moving right along, we had an in-ring return of our man Dijak, who demanded that Dante Chen respect his authority. And John Smith, break that one down for us.
Not much to break down here, man. It was an elongated squash, if you want to call it that. You know, he tossed him around a little bit. Dante Chen reversed a couple moves, but then just got slapped right down after the fact. He ends up getting hit with the go to hell, or I don't know what Dijak calls it yet. Do you have that information by any chance?
I don't think they've given it a name yet.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, the reverse go to sleep or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, he's basically a one-man retribution. You know, a little bit of old Karrion Kross sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
There was one of you two gentlemen, and I use that term loosely, who called that last when we talked about who he was going to face, and we talked about Inoue and all this. It was one or two you went, or even Dante Chen. So one of you, I tipped my non-existent hat.
Yeah, and it was poor Dante Chen, because I don't know if someone screwed up, or it could have been just that match was real stiff, and Dante left with a bloody mouth. So he did not. I don't think he enjoyed himself too much. Later on, we saw Dijak. He was He was approached by Stax and Tony D in the parking lot. And Tony D said he wanted an understanding between the two of them because, Tony D gets along with authority figures. He always has. Tony D is in action tonight, so we'll see whether or not, does Dijak wind up taking a shot at him? Does he wind up helping him out? Or was that just a complete blow-off segment and they don't really do anything with it? Who knows? We shall find out. But more important tonight, going back to last week, we had Pretty Deadly backstage with Mackenzie. They felt they're not getting enough attention, and the attention is not on them. So this week, they will be presenting a very special Christmas story. So make sure you have your hot cocoa and your warm blanket, and you're tucked in and ready for that one. Oh, goodness. All right. So this was, I believe, this came out of a digital bonus thing that was on Twitter or whatnot. Hank Walker didn't appreciate Charlie Dempsey mentioning how, they even hired a security guard here. So he kind of got in his face in the locker room. Charlie said he'll show him exactly why he doesn't belong, and that's going to take place tonight. We're going to have Hank Walker, Charlie Dempsey, one-on-one. Gary, tell us who you got in this one, as if we need to ask.
Let me see. Although saying that, I do like Hank Walker. I think that's funny, but sorry, Big Charlie's going to bend him and snap him and break him in half. So Charlie Dempsey it is.
All righty. John Smith, do you agree?
Oh, yes, I definitely second that. The only way Charlie Dempsey loses is if somebody comes out and interferes and starts a new program with him or something. There's no way the security guard's winning this.
Yeah, I would have to concur. We'll make that a clean sweep for Mr. Charlie Dempsey. Goodness. All right. Last week we had JD McDonough, who showed up uninvited to the Diamond Dojo, and he was talking to Ivy Nile. Eventually the Creeds came back, and just to be a dick, he told them that they had absolutely no shot against Indushir, and the Creed brothers said, "We don't care. Please leave." Later in the evening, Julius took on JD. Julius would get the win by DQ. When Indushir came to ringside, they were fighting on the floor. JD swung a chair at Julius and absolutely should have been disqualified. But because Sanga pushed Julius out of the way, and he was the one who wasn't actually involved in the match, the DQ went against JD for Julius. It was going to happen whether or not the chair hit him either way. But technically the DQ, I think, was on Sanga because JD never made contact with the chair. Afterwards, Veer told both of the Creeds that they want them at nothing less than 100% going into Deadline. That's why they came out to save Julius's behind. That takes us to our first Deadline match that we will pick. And let's see if I can actually find it. Seriously, I know it's here. Iron Survivor, NXT title. I guess there isn't a graphic for that one, but we're going to pick it anyway. The Creeds versus Indushir. John Smith, our resident NXT guru, who you got coming out of this one?
this is the first high profile Indus Share 2.0 match, so I'm definitely going with them to take it down.
All righty. Gary, what say you?
Yeah, I'm gonna second that one. It's one of those ones where you think the creeds will be protected, but I think in this will be the Indus Share going over.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you gents. You didn't give them this. Yeah, not that it's been a huge build, but there's definitely been a lot of attention on them. They kind of have to win. The only reason I hesitate for a second is because it's the Creeds, but I agree with you gents. The Indus kind of has to go over here. So last week's episode was mostly and mainly about the Iron Survivor Challenge. Shawn Michaels sat down with his Hall of Fame panel. He had Road Dogg there, X-Pac, Molly Holly, and Alundra Blaze. They talked about the men's division. They talked about the women's division. And everyone submitted their thoughts for who they thought the 5 people should be to go in. And then we saw some matches in the women's division. We saw Roxy Perez beat Indy Hartwell. Then we saw Kiana James take out Fallon Henley. And then Shawn Michaels announced both the men's and the women's. Taking them one at a time, we'll start with the women's division. Going into the Iron Survivor is Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Kiana James, and the extra interesting wrinkle is that both the men and the women's matches will have wild cards, which will be taken care of tonight on NXT. So let's pick the women's wild card first. It's going to be a triple threat between Wendy Chu, Fallon Henley, and Indy Hartwell, all 3 coming off of losses, but moving up in the women's division nonetheless. Gary, who do you got coming out of the women's triple threat?
This pains me to say it. Big Wendy Chu I'm sorry. I think she's gonna. Yeah, she's definitely put me to sleep. But then Wendy Chu, I think is gonna be the next one to go into it.
All righty, John Smith, who you got coming out of this?
It's definitely going to be Wendy Chu. Indy's probably going to get distracted by Elektra, and then Fallon Henley's there to take the pin.
Poor Fallon. At least she's got her bar to fall back on. All right. So, I guess. Yeah, just that because you brought up Elektra, who I wasn't thinking about. I was going to go with Indy, but that's a good point, John Smith. I'll probably go with Wendy as well. All right, so let's roll it forward to gosh darn it. There was a graphic for that one.
For that one, but not for the one on Deadline. Not the Batman. Thanks, Al.
And let's take that we've all got Wendy Chu moving on. Let's plug her into that empty spot and talk about the Iron Survivor Challenge between Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxy Perez, Kiana James, and who we believe will be Wendy Chu. Let's go right back to you, John Smith. Who you got coming out of that as your new women's #1 contender on Saturday night?
This could honestly go any way just because of the stipulations of the match, where people will be in penalty boxes, people will be in the match while other ones are getting falls. If I was just picking a name out of these, I would say Zoe Stark, but I don't think it's going to be that way. I think it's going to be Cora Jade. I think she's going to just cheat. And I mean, there's no cheating in this type of match, but just connive her way into a bunch of falls and maybe steal a couple from people who hit their finishers, that type of thing. I think Cora Jade's going to end up with the victory here.
All righty. Gary, what say you?
I'm going to go the opposite side of that because I thought about Cora Jade. I'm going to go Roxanne Perez and say that they're going to give it to her and then aim her towards Mandy Rose, and she'll be the one that takes the title from her. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, you've got that reign finally coming to an end in the foreseeable future. Yeah, I mean, she's the only face in there. I mean, assuming Wendy gets in, there'll be 2 faces in there. But, yeah, are they going to go for some heel-on-heel action here in the women's division? Because I'm really leaning towards Zoe. I'm going to say Zoe for now, but we've got a show tonight to help change our minds. So, all right, we've all got it a little
3
bit
different picks. I like that. 3 different picks.
All right, so they also sat down and talked about the men's division. We saw a couple of matches in the men's division. Malik Blade got a shot at Von Wagner after Von had ripped up his sweater vest. Well, that didn't work out too well for him. In under 3 minutes, Von Wagner hit that Death Valley suplex, whatever the hell it is that he does. He got the win. Then later on, Duke Hudson and Andre Chase had some words. Excuse me, Duke Hudson and Andre Chase were talking when Grayson Waller showed up, and they had some words. Andre Chase wanted to take on Grayson Waller. Jesus Cristo. Andre Chase wanted to take on Grayson Waller, but Duke Hudson said, no, let me step in here. Later on in the show, we got exactly that. Grayson Waller defeated Duke Hudson. And Andre Chase got really pissed off because if you remember the week before, Duke Hudson accidentally kicked his partner, Andre Chase, in the face. He almost did that to Thea Hale during this match, but when he stopped himself short, he said, "Don't worry, Thea, I can control it whenever I want to," which made Andre go like, "Whoa, that doesn't make me feel any better." And he kind of stomped off, and I'm sure he cursed the blue streak backstage. But most importantly, that brings us through to the Iron Survivor Challenge picks, because even though he picked up a win on that evening, Von Wagner did not make it in. Carmelo Hayes, J.D. McDonough, Grayson Waller, and Joe Gacy did, but the wild card match will get us our fifth person. Von Wagner will have a shot there. He'll be joined by Axiom and Andre Chase. Gary, how do you see the wild card match going tonight? I'll take that.
I'm going to go Von Wagner, as much as he's my least favorite of the three. I think that there'll be, again, some sort of schmoz and commotion with Andre Chase and so on, Duke Hudson's, and I think that Axiom will be there to kind of get beat by Vaughn. So.
Yeah, couldn't you just absolutely see Duke Hudson somehow costing Andre Chase this match? So, John Smith, what say you? Again, we have Axiom, Von Wagner, Andre Chase. Who's moving on to the Iron Survivor Challenge?
I mean, the Wagner thing makes sense, but everybody in the match already is a heel. So we're going to have 5 heels going at it for, I mean, at least you're guaranteed a heel to take on Braun, but I think that Andre Chase steals a victory here. You know, maybe Von Wagner hits his finisher and he steals a victory, kind of like the same thing I said for Cora before. I have many good ideas, right? Many. But, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have all 5 of these guys being heel in this match. So, for only that reason, I'm going to go with Andre, or maybe even Axiom. I don't know. Just, that's the only reason I don't think Von's going to win.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, 5 heels in a match. That is kind of odd. Maybe Andre Chase does find a way out of this. But let's go right back to you, John Smith. Plug in your choice there of Andre Chase, and who do you see coming out of it? You got Mello, you got JD, you got Waller, you got Gacy, and presumably you have Andre Chase. Who you got being your Iron Survivor champion, and therefore your number 1 contender in the men's division?
Give me a C. Give me an 8. No, I'm not taking Andre Chase. Kind of the same way I feel about Zoe Stark is how I feel about Carmelo Hayes. Like, he should be the one that's winning, but I don't think he will. Yeah. Maybe they want to have him do something not around a title for once. I'm going to go with Grayson Waller because he's overdue for that run at the title.
Okay. Gary, who do you got coming out of the Iron Survivor Challenge?
The exact same as John. I'm going Grayson Waller, and I think because of where I think that the main event will go, I think that Grayson Waller, as John said, is due that run. Plus, he's the sort of person could get beat down the line and not really affect him too much. So I'm going to say Grayson Waller as well.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a clean sweep. Waller's the one that just makes sense. And like Gary said, tipping my hand as to what I think might happen in the main event, I think Waller makes a lot of sense there as well. So let's not beat around the bush. Let's go right back to you, Gary. Main event, world title, NXT title, whatever you want to call it. Braun Breaker and Mr. Apollo Crews. Who do you have walking away with the big title?
I think this will be an absolutely killer match. I think it'll be a great match, but I think Braun keeps it. That's where I think it's going to go. Braun will keep it, and then you'll head towards him and Grayson Waller next.
Okay, John Smith.
Yeah, this is a tough one. The only reason I'm picking Braun is because he's on such a winning streak. You don't want to pick against him at this point. You know, it could go. It's a 50-50, though. I'll take Braun.
All right. Well, I still could be swayed by something weird happening tonight, but what's Apollo been doing here if it's not for this? So, it took him long enough to get to this match.
Yeah.
I'm going to say new champ. And I've picked against the NXT champs like 6 out of the last 7 matches, both male and female, and continue to be wrong, which is why I'm so far down the list on the NXT points. But here we go again. So, all right. That does it for NXT and for Deadline. That, again, is this Saturday night. Premium live event. Let's roll it back. Let's do this. Let's put that up there. And because I was playing with the graphics, of course, I lost our nameplates. So let's bring that back just so I can lose them again in 5 seconds. Last week on SmackDown, we had our quintessential Bray Wyatt moment where, again, he denies attacking LA Knight, but this time he got a little angry about it and said, because if it was him, there'd be nothing left. And then later on in the show, we had the broadcast, like in between matches, kind of got broken up, and we got another Uncle Howie moment where at this point, I'm not even paying attention to what he's saying. He ended it with, again, the revel in what you are. And look, this might be me being a little fickle, but enough already. Let's get a match out of Bray. I don't care about Uncle Howie anymore.
Howdy. It's Howdy, not Howie.
Howdy, yeah. You know what? I actually have it here, Howdy, but I can't read because I'm going blind. So
It's Howie Mandel.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for helping me out there. We had a Karrion Kross promo where he seems to have his eyes set on Rey Mysterio next. I don't know what the sense is in sending a big monster after the smallest guy on the roster, but that looks like where we're headed. Lacey Evans, there was a vignette where she's going back to basics. So another reset, and let's talk about how she's a military vet and everything. This time, are you going to do the smart thing and make her a military vet who's a babyface at least? I don't know. I guess we'll see where that goes because it sure as hell didn't work as a heel.
Was that Natalia narrating her vignette? It sounded like Natalia to me.
That's good. You know what? I don't remember. I remember not exactly knowing who that was, but that's a good point. It very well may have been Natty. Maybe that's what they're doing with her these days, unfortunately.
At least she's not farting like she was 10 years ago.
It's a good point. That's definitely a bump up the card, right? Let's see. We had Damage Control in the ring last week, and Liv Morgan came out. We hadn't seen Liv in a little while. She made an odd choice to attack Damage Control 1-on-3. That didn't go too well. So then she got some help from Tegan Nox, who did not, unfortunately, get a very big reaction out of the crowd. That continued to not go all that well 2-on-3 until Liv found a kendo stick and cleared everybody out. And Tegan hit the shiniest wizard on Bayley. Continuing in the women's division, we had Madcap Moss giving Emma a little boost before she went through the curtain, like Emma did for him a couple of weeks ago. Didn't work out very well for Emma back then. It didn't work out very well for Moss back then. Didn't work out very well for Emma this time as Shayna Baszler choked her out with the Kirifuda clutch and afterwards continued to put the boots to her until Shotzi came down to make the save. That didn't work out too well either. Raquel came down and kind of scared everyone off. But that brings us to this coming Friday where Shotzi will get a shot at Shayna Baszler after Shayna took out Emma. Whew, was that confusing enough for you? Larry, who do you got, Shotzi versus Shayna this week on SmackDown?
I'm thankful. I know Al would have said as well that Shayna's getting the push. I'm going to say Shayna goes over.
All righty, John Smith, what say you?
I'm going to give Shotzi this victory with a Raw roll-up.
Ooh, very nice. All right, yeah. SmackDown could use another.
That's what Shayna's most vulnerable to is the roll-up.
if Al's keeping track has taught us anything, it's that Shayna's kryptonite is the Raw roll-up. And that SmackDown this week will be from Pittsburgh, PA, where we will have a Kurt Angle sighting since it is his birthday and it is his hometown. So look forward to a Kurt Angle birthday celebration. Getting back to last week, we had Kofi backstage with Megan. He was the first person to officially announce for the Royal Rumble. He said he thought that Ricochet would win the World Cup at the end of the evening. Imperium interrupted. Kofi said, look, I don't have Woods here with me, but I'll take on either Vinci or Kaiser. I don't care, one-on-one. Let's do it. And that's when Gunther showed up. And he said, no, you'll be taking on me. Gary, tell us how that worked out.
Not too well for Kofi. No, I mean, it was Kofi had the control early on, but Gunther had a backbreaker and an uppercut and got him back. And obviously, Gunther with a lot of chops and did the old, I haven't seen it in a while, it was like a back in the day of British wrestling, the old snapping his neck with his feet, putting his feet around his neck and kind of twisting it with his feet. Imperium then did try to get involved and trip the referee, or tripped Kofi when the referee wasn't watching, and Braun came out to even it up and got rid of Vinci and Kaiser over the barricade. Kofi had then avoided the powerbomb and hit him with the SOS, but Gunther came right back, chopped him from midair, hit a German suplex and the Boston Crab, and then hit him with the shotgun drop kick. And when Kofi got up, he had caught him with a powerbomb, and then when Kofi just about got up, Gunther hit the last symphony and pinned him and took the win.
Yeah, so it was unfortunate. Everyone expects certain things out of Gunther, and the people in the arena didn't really pop for the new finisher.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will in the future, because then we got to hear Michael Cole put it over. It's, he told me that's called the Last Symphony. I mean, it was basically kind of a side sit out power slam. It
there's a body slam where he sits down at the end of it.
Exactly,
it's perfect for Gunther. Like that, the power bomb, the Boston Crab, that's who he is.
Yeah, it definitely works for him, and I'm sure now that we've got a name for it and Michael Cole put it over, it'll get a better reaction next time. But it just seemed like everyone wasn't quite ready for the match to end. He hit that move, and they were like, all right, is he now going to pick him up for the ragdoll powerbomb? Oh, no, he's pinning them. Okay. So that is Gunther getting a victory, and he will, not this week, but next week, be taking on the winner of the World Cup final, which took place last week. That was a match between Ricochet and Santos Escobar. John Smith, tell us who took home the World Cup trophy.
Well, Santos came out flanked by Legado, of course, with Zelina going over to the announce table, and then Ricochet comes out and we start the match. Both members of Legado just picking, like trying to get involved, like hopping up on the apron, doing this, doing that. Typical heel crap. Ricochet getting distracted, and then eventually the referee catches wind of it, and he just sends them both packing. And then Zelina gets all pissed, and she jumps on the apron, and he sends her packing. So we go to commercial break with them, tucking their tails up between their legs as they're screaming. And then we come back, and then we could get the match started. And this was a hell of a match. Santos had the upper hand for a little while once we came back from the commercial, but then Ricochet was all over the place with his. Like he did the off the apron, the shooting star, the running shooting star. At one point, he went for a move off the steps on the outside, and Santos moved, and he just tight roped the wall, Kofi style. But then Santos jumps up there. Looks like he's going to go for a Spanish fly, but it ends up being a Hurricane Rana off the wall onto the ground, which was pretty cool. And then he hits him with a Poison Rana on the inside after a failed Phantom Driver attempt that was reversed. He then hits that. But then they get up to the top rope, the two of them, and Ricochet hits Santos with a Poison Rana off the top rope, which was sick. Yeah. And then he jumps at him with the high knee, couple kicks, and all of a sudden Santos is down in perfect position in the corner of the ring. Ricochet climbs the ropes. does a 450, hits it 1, 2, 3. Ricochet is your World Cup champion, unfortunately. No, he deserves it. I just love Santos.
Yeah. And then Ricochet headed up the aisle to grab his trophy. Gunther came out. They kind of, did a little chatting off the mic up there, right out in front of the Tron. And that was kind of the way the show ended, if I remember correctly. And they will fight, as we said, in 2 weeks in Chicago, Illinois on December 16th for the Intercontinental Championship. That's how the show ended. But the show began with the Bloodline in the ring and the Usos giving all praise to Sami Zayn for the War Games win. Although Solo Sikoa is looking more and more consistently absolutely miserable and like he doesn't really even want to be there. It's maybe it's part that he's the the hitman of the group, if you will, but he never looks happy to be there anymore. He was kind of he was never jovial like the other guys, but he just looks more and more pissed off every week. Anyway, the Brawling Brutes interrupted. Sheamus said enough talking, and we get to what was the first match of the evening, but is going to wrap up the show for us. It's Sami Zayn, and it's Sheamus. Gary, how did this one play out?
Well, from the start, you had Sheamus taking control and knocking Sami down and sort of nailed him into the barricade. But Sami came back and had a DDT for a 2. Although he went for a sleeper and Sheamus managed to break it, but he got hit with a tornado DDT. Sami, when what I thought was quite funny, went for the beats of the Boron, but he got blocked at first and he had Sheamus shoved him out of the way. But then Sami returned fire and shoved Sheamus out of the ring and hit him with a tope from the inside to the outside, obviously. Sheamus eventually got him with the beats of the Boron, but Jay hit him with an enziguri when the ref wasn't quite watching, and Sami had a Blue Thunder Bomb for a 2. There was a brawl at ringside. The Brutes and the Usos got involved, hitting each other, and Solo knocked Butch out. I think he hit the spinning Solo on the apron. I think it was on the apron he hit it. But you then had Sheamus, who managed to surprise Sami when he hit a knee and was about to go for an Alabama Slam or something similar, but Jay came in and super kicked him and allowed Sami Zayn then with like a sunset flip type move to then pin Sheamus and take the win.
And you know what? They did a really good job on both of these matches that you guys just broke down. In the first match, they got the seconds out of the way in like under 3 minutes, and then it went for almost another 20 minutes, and it was an awesome match. In this match, although it was complete chaos at the end, everyone kind of played nice for it was like an 18.5-minute match for like 17 minutes. Nobody got involved. We got a really good match out of both of those matches. So good for them for the way they're setting these things up. But that brings us to this coming week. Speaking of the Bloodline, speaking of the Brutes and such, the Usos, who retained their tag team titles, we're supposed to face Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Drew apparently announced via social media that he's not medically cleared, so stepping in alongside Sheamus will be the Madman Butch, and it's going to be for the undisputed tag titles. So, Gary, tell us, how do you see this one working out?
It's funny, when it was initially Sheamus and Drew, I thought, I don't think they'll beat them, but it's kind of a bit more of an intrigue. I think now with Drew out of it, and Butch in it, I think it obviously opens up more for Butch to be the one that takes the pinfall for the Usos to win. So,
yeah, John Smith, how do you see it going?
My thoughts exactly. There's gonna be a lot more build up for the Usos losing their titles in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we all wish Drew a speedy recovery from whatever he's going through, but the minute he was taken out of this one, any part of me that went like, "Ooh, is it going to happen here?" Kind of like, no, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, that's how we see that working out. That will do it for SmackDown, and that will do it for Gary this week. Thank you for hanging with us. I know it's late over there. Go get to bed, sir.
No, I shall be heading that way. Have a good rest of the show. I shall see you soon.
All right, thanks. Always great seeing you.
Yeah.
All righty. Now let's get that out of there, and let's bring up, I know it's here somewhere. There it is. Let's put that on. We can get rid of the SmackDown logo because now we are headed to talk about Raw last night. The show started with Elias getting jumped in the parking lot mostly by Solo Sikoa. The whole bloodline was there, minus Roman. So that kind of took him out of what was supposed to be the tag title match last night. So once we get inside the building, the show starts with the bloodline announcing, the match is off. Then Riddle comes out and says, but no, it isn't. I found a new partner, and that new partner is Kevin Owens. So let's get to it. The undisputed tag title match kicked off the show, and John Smith, how did it go?
Man, I really thought he was going to say Randy Orton, and we were going to get a nice surprise, but I don't know where his recovery is at or anything like that. So at any point, if he comes back, it'll be a surprise to me.
Absolutely.
This match went on. I'm glad KO was the guy though, because it was quite the match. Riddle obviously was the one that got beat up until the hot tag by KO later in the match. Then everything breaks down on the outside. Solo's getting involved. Sammy's getting involved. Sammy pulls Jay out of the way, so Riddle gets all mad about it. But then Solo steps in his way, and then KO kicks Solo, or they all start kicking each other. Then we end up, it ends up with Riddle kicking Jay last and tossing him in the ring, and then gets distracted for a moment by Sammy. Then when he walks back in the ring, he walks right into a 1D for the 1, 2, 3. So the bloodline pulling their shenanigans again. And I mean, we all knew that this wasn't going to end up with a title change, but it was a very entertaining match. And then after, because Riddle took out Solo Sikoa during the match with a big flying something over the ring that started all that super kicking. Solo made sure to take him out at the end of the match and ended up putting him in an ambulance ultimately.
Yeah, KO chased the bloodline up the aisle with a steel chair, but nobody realized for a couple seconds at least that Solo doubled back and he beat the holy hell out of Riddle. So we'll see where this one is headed.
I like to see Solo having maybe like his first singles program. Obviously, it's going to be bloodline related, but at least we're going to get Solo versus whoever, not like Solo plus everyone else versus.
Absolutely, yeah. It's time to let him shine a little bit, and he managed to even work in a tribute to Umaga because he used the Samoan Spike, etc. And so let's just get Solo a little more front and center. It's time for that. Then a big chunk of the rest of the night was taken up and set up by JBL's Invitational Poker Tournament. In our first segment, we found out that Dexter Lumis was not invited, but when he started showing off the big Louis Vuitton bag full of Miz's money, suddenly that bought him a seat. Later on, he cleaned out Baron Corbin, which pissed Corbin off. Meanwhile, at the other table, Dom Mysterio was trying to steal some chips, which pissed off Akira Tozawa because they were his chips. And that led to Dom and Akira in the ring. Dom took him out in under 3 minutes. It looked like the Judgment Day was going to help Dom take some liberties with Tozawa afterwards, but the Street Profits came out and Judgment Day just kind of dispersed. Back to the poker tournament. Miz tried to get in. JBL said, I didn't know you were a player. Come on in. But you do understand it's a $50K buy-in. Well, Miz, after giving up all that money last week, wasn't exactly liquid. He tried to buy his way in with a Rolex, which turned out to be a fake. Miz left dejected, and I left. Later on, Baron Corbin again was caught with, and this time he was caught with cards up his sleeve. AJ Styles and the OC called him out on it. The Alphas seemed to have Corbin's back for some unknown reason, we know the reason. It was so they could set up a nice 6-man tag. That would be AJ Styles and the OC versus Baron Corbin and the Alpha Academy. John Smith, tell us how that one worked out.
AJ Styles and the OC versus Corbin and the Alphas. Very good match. Not too much Gallows in this one because he needs to get the hot tag. So we start off with Karl Anderson getting beat up for a little while. We go to commercial and somehow, at one point he gets the tag to Gallows, AJ gets the tag to Gallows. I don't know how AJ ended up in the ring and not Gallows, though. Like, you need Gallows, you need the big man in there. So AJ gets the tag, but Carl Anderson was arguing with the ref for some reason, so Gallows isn't in. And then all of a sudden, Carl Anderson's back in the ring. Like, tag the big man in. You know where this needs to go. Eventually Corbin hits his deep six, because we need to see that every time he's in the ring because it's one of the greatest moves of all time. Gable putting on an absolute clinic with all the way he's getting people into these holds and suplexes. And then eventually he ends up eating a magic killer for the victory after Luke Gallows gets the tag in and cleans house. So we got a win by the OC.
There you go. And look at all the goodness in that match there. You got your boy AJ Styles, you got our boy Gable. I mean, that was just, I'd love to see the two of them go at it alone for 20 minutes, but that was a really fun 6-man tag.
That should be a WrestleMania match.
Yes, I am all on board.
Not even for a title. Doesn't need to be.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't care if it's on the goddamn pre-show. Just give me those guys and give them 15 to 20 minutes minimum. Then more fallout from the poker tournament. Later, Candice LeRae is being interviewed, and after beating up Dakota, she now has a date with Io Sky. But more importantly, Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis show up with the bag full of money, which is now full of money and more money and poker chips for some reason, because somehow that they needed to take those away from the table. Anyway, Dexter was the big winner. And Candice, without saying it, she kind of went like, well, you're two morons, so I've got to go take care of this money situation so we don't get it stolen from us. So she cut her interview short. But what they were getting at is what is going to take place next week on Raw. We're going to get Candice LeRae. She's already beaten Dakota. This time she goes against Io Sky. John Smith, what do you say?
Yeah, this is a old school grudge match that we got a few years ago on an NXT takeover. This one I see going Io's way. I know she it seems like she's probably going to beat them both and then end up getting some sort of tag title match somehow. But I think Io pulls this one off because she's the better wrestler.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is if Candice already had a partner, I'd say maybe that she'd win with a Raw roll up, and then, like you said, they'd get the tag title match. But Candice right now is a lone wolf, and that alone might wind up costing her the match. But when it comes right down to it, like you said, Io is the better performer and should probably get this win. We found out that there's going to be 2 triple threats tonight, both involving the ladies, where both of the winners will move on to a match next week for the number 1 contendership to Bianca's title. We started out by Rhea finding out she's in one of them. She's already decided she's winning tonight. She's winning next week. She's beating Bianca. And then everyone can call her mommy. I'm not sure why we want to do that, but apparently that's some kind of sick, twisted thing between her and Dom. But we did get a match out of the women's division. That was the first triple threat. It was Bayley versus Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. This one was real good. It was 15 plus minutes long. In the end, unfortunately, Rhea took herself out. She tried to do like a running cannonball, running off the steps, completely missed, landed outside, which kind of like left her recovering for the rest of the match. And inside, Asuka missed a missile drop kick. Bayley hit the rose plant. She got the 1, 2, 3. And afterwards, Bayley took off. Rhea was real pissed, so she just beat the hell out of Asuka and eventually dropped her with a riptide. Backstage, Bianca was with Kathy Kelly, where, the world's most unbelievable baby face said she was just hoping everyone had a good time and she'd be ready for whoever was there to take her on somewhere down the line. I'm so sick and tired of her.
Oh, my God. It's been 2 years. Jesus.
Unnecessary. Then we move to, pardon me, our other women's triple threat, where Alexa Bliss took on Becky Lynch and Nikki Cross. After about 16 minutes of a really, really good match, Dakota Kai and Io Sky, not even playing around with the fact that they didn't just cheat a little bit. They yanked Becky out of the ring and powerbombed her through the announce table. And, all the announcers could say was, well, it's a triple threat, so there's no disqualification. All righty. Alexa hit Twisted Bliss, and that brings us to our pick for one of the only 2 matches we know for next week, or 3 matches, excuse me, we already picked one. And that will be Bayley versus Alexa Bliss. the winner is the number one contender for Bianca's Raw Women's Championship because they have women's titles on Raw. So how do you see that one working out, John Smith, Bayley, and Alexa Bliss?
It's got to be Bayley. And then we're going to go circling right back to Bayley versus Bianca for the, fourth time now? I mean, is Alexa going to turn into like creepy Bray Wyatt Alexa? I don't think so. So how the hell are they going to sell us on Alexa versus Bianca at the Royal Rumble?
They kind of were giving you like a wink to that, like a couple of weeks ago when they were interviewing Bianca with, I think, Asuka and Alexa. Alexa was kind of like daydreaming, and I was hoping that daydream was going to be like she was daydreaming about beating the hell out of Bianca. Like I was hoping we were going to get a turn like later that night, and then there was no more mention of it, and it didn't really play out this past week either. I'm going to say Alexa just because there's something there, and as much as I love Bayley and wanted her to take the title away by now, are they really going to give us that for like the 9th time? So yeah, they probably are, but just for giggles, I'm going to say Alexa Bliss. Okay, we already talked about McIntyre being out of the title match. The other major chunk of the show that we're going to wrap up with here involved the United States Championship, the number one title for the men on Raw. It started out with Rollins coming out in one of his goofy get-ups and laughing, and everyone sang along with him and blah, blah, blah. Lashley came out. Of course, he's never happy to see Seth. Seth started getting in Bobby's face, saying he was jealous of Brock Lesnar and he knew he couldn't beat Brock Lesnar. These two were fighting each other. I don't know why you'd feel the need to bring up Brock Lesnar, but things got physical. Lashley missed Seth with a spear, and poor Petey Williams took the bullet for that one. So that was not pleasant for the now backstage agent, Pete Williams, as we were told. Austin Theory was then backstage with Byron Saxton, where he said that Seth and Bobby are the past and the forever is just beginning. Mustafa Ali was rolling his eyes and made fun of Theory for his botched cash-in, and Theory said, all right, enough. I'm going to give you a shot. You're going to get a shot tonight, right now, in fact. And after this, I never want to hear you talking about the opportunities you don't get again. So they roll that forward. They had a nice 8-minute match. It was solid. Ali got in some of his stuff, but Austin Theory won by DQ when Dolph Ziggler interrupted the match and attacked Austin Theory. So is Mustafa Ali now going to try and find his way into the number one contender match next week? For now, we're just going to pick it as it stands straight up. Austin Theory is your U.S. champion, and fighting to be the number one contender is Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley next week. John Smith, who do you see coming out of that one?
I'm going to go with Seth to win this one somehow. I don't know how. maybe they put Ali in it just so he can take the fall. Because I don't see them having Bobby lose to Theory in any way, no matter how it happens by hook or crook. I don't think they're going to have him do that. I think that's something you do to Seth.
Yeah. Or maybe you're just hoping that because you don't like Seth.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, I think Ali finds his way in here somewhere. So you're probably right in that. But even if we're sticking it straight up, I think Seth finds a way to come out of this because they're obviously positioning him as the number one guy on Raw or thereabouts.
Maybe Petey Williams interferes and it's his way of getting into the main roster finally.
There you go. If Petey comes out in a suit and hits a Canadian Destroyer in the middle of that match.
Yep. The only thing missing from this Raw, especially with the JBL thing, Johnny Swinger, man. If JBL had hired Johnny Swinger to run his poker games, that would have been sweet, Daddy.
I kept thinking at some point in time we were going to see Ron Simmons last night as JBL in his suit was talking about no fighting in my,
Right.
my poker room and whatnot. I just figured we were going to eventually get a cutaway to Ron Simmons over in the corner going, damn.
Yeah, they're giving him the look like, are you serious?
Didn't you make half a career based on that? All right. So that'll do it for Raw. We're going to move on to Impact, who was back at it after taking a little week off for Thanksgiving. We opened the show with Bully Ray in the ring, once again asking, why did you people think that why is everyone angry with me? What did I do wrong? I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I called my shot, and then I did something despicable, but it didn't involve one of the matches. That's just who I am. I'm a scumbag. Rich Swann made his way down and attacked Bully. The refs came down, and eventually we got a match between the two of them, which was scheduled. Rich Swann beat Bully by DQ when Bully had enough of it after about 6 or 7 minutes and just grabbed the chains that he wears around his neck down to the ring and popped Swann with them. Afterwards, Dreamer came out because Bully had zip-tied Swann to the rope again and was about to take some liberties with a chair. And Tommy Dreamer was already pissed at Bully, but Scott D'Amore came out and was hot. He was pissed off, and he was looking to get physical with Bully, which, of course, would not have worked out well for him. But Tommy wound up spending more time holding Scott D'Amore away from Bully. Eventually, Scott calls Bully a piece of bleep. Bully 100% agrees, but reminds him that you're the one who hired me. All that is, of course, swirling around what happened with Josh and the world title at Overdrive. And Josh will be in the Impact Zone this week. He had taken last week off to spend time with his family after the very traumatic happenings at Overdrive. Moving along, last week in the main event, we got ourselves a doozy. It was the next step in Mickey's last rodeo. John Smith, was it the last step?
Of course not, because it was on a regular show, on a regular episode of Impact with pretty much no buildup except for the buildup they gave you on that episode. It was a good match, though. It was probably the most technical of the of the many matches that these two ladies have had. You got your typical, back and forth at the beginning where they have the standoff after they keep reversing each other. It's mandatory in every big match. Then we go to commercial, and when we come back, it's just Deonna just controlling the match for a long time. And even after they went to commercial again, it was still Deonna. Of course, Mickey wasn't just getting beat up the whole time. She was like reversing things and whatnot, but Deonna just controlled the match until the end when she went for a I want to say it was a belly to back suplex, right? And then
kind of the same thing, but not the high impact. It was an O'Connor roll off the rope, push off the ropes and twirl back.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. And then Deonna got rolled over, and Mickey actually pulled the tights, and we get a raw roll up for Mickey, and it was a cheat to win situation for the babyface.
Yes, indeed. So yes, the last rodeo rolls on. And then afterwards, we found out where it's rolling on to next because
Jordan Grace came out afterwards and willingly just handed Mickey a shot. Said, "I think that you deserve this now." So I guess Mickey's career is almost over.
And you know what? After what they did with Mickey last time, I'm not 100% sure. Remember when she beat Deonna, how we were all like, oh, okay, well, Mickey's here just to put another notch in Deonna's belt. And then she took the title from her in a really great, really long match.
But the problem is she could still go. Why is she even unless this is all gimmick and she's not planning on retiring anytime soon, why would she be planning on retiring? Maybe it's a family thing. Maybe she wants to spend more time with her kids, whatever. That's great. But she's got the talent. She can go, man. I think she belongs on the WWE roster still. She's up there with anyone.
She's still putting on good matches every time. It's one thing when you see somebody go out there and you're like, all right, they've slowed down. Maybe it's time. I love Tommy Dreamer, but every time I see him get in the ring, I'm like, why, Tommy? Why are you doing this? Anymore. But yeah, Mickey's going out there. She's hanging with all the top stars in this company, and she's going to get a shot at the tippy top. But that's a story for another day because that's on Friday the 13th in January. That is Hard to Kill. That will be your women's main event. Moving along, we had Mike Bailey backstage with Mean Gia. And Kenny King, he was talking about how Kenny King said he's going to bring out this other side that nobody else knows about Mike Bailey, insinuating that Mike Bailey's some kind of phony. Oh, Mike Bailey says he doesn't intend to change anything, but him and King are still going to go at it.
Hey, the only thing phony about Mike Bailey is his teeth. Okay,
it's those big, bright choppers.
Yes, him and Roman Reigns have the same dentist.
I love it. Now, those two, Bailey and King, had previously fought for the X Division title. Meanwhile, we had a promo from the X Division champion, Trey Miguel, who has since undergone a heel turn. He said the people are not happy with him, and he doesn't care. He was obsessed with getting his X Division title back, so he did whatever he needed to do to get it back. And then he took out the presumably same can of neon green spray paint that he blinded Taurus with to win the title, and he spray painted the X Division title. He, not a lot of artistry went into it. I guess he was going for his TM in the circle that he fake sprays every time he comes out on the stage, and it's a part of his Tron video. But he messed up the X Division title. Anywho, Trey will be taking on the young rookie there, Jason Hotch, this week. It doesn't say for the X Division title on the website just yet, and it's on BTI. So we'll just pick it as a regular match. John Smith, who do you got between Trey Miguel and Jason Hotch?
Not familiar with who Jason Hotch is, and it doesn't matter. Trey Miguel will beat him handily.
I believe you are 100% correct, sir. Later on in that show, we had Frankie Kazarian taking on Steve Macklin. This was, Macklin was pissed off that Kazarian got the title shot and he didn't. So he took it out on him, and Frankie beat him, but he beat him by DQ because when the fight went to the floor, Macklin just said, screw it, and hit him with a chair. Eventually, he beat him around ringside, back into the ring, and dropped him with what he calls the KIA. That's the double underhook Foley-esque DDT onto the chair. And I'm guessing maybe that one's probably not over either. But someone who did put something in his past is Eddie Edwards. He was backstage with Gia, said he didn't want to talk about the past, specifically PCO, because Gia was trying to point out that, PCO's not dead. You thought you murdered him and left him in the desert, but we saw his hand rise up out of the grave. Doesn't matter. Eddie doesn't want to talk about it. He's moving along, and as he went to leave the interview area, he bumped into that dude Delirious, the dude with the big ZZ Top goatee and the lucha mask that wrestles barefoot. And I don't know if he speaks Spanish or just gibberish because he doesn't really do much more than grunt. And him and Eddie just kind of looked at each other and then walked away. I don't know. We'll probably wind up seeing a match between the two of them this week, but it's not on the website yet, so we're not going to bother picking that one. But a match that we also had last week that, again, kind of arose out of nowhere was your boy Moose. And he was taking on Bhupinder Gujar. Break it down for us, John.
Big old Moose versus Bhupinder Gujar. This was kind of an elongated squash, like one of the other ones like the Dijak match I broke down before. Bhupinder got a few reversals in or whatever, but Moose was just, throwing him around the ring left and right, and then ended up hitting him with the spear for the victory. So then he gets on the mic afterwards and he starts telling everybody he told them so about Bully Ray, and you say his name and he appears, and all of a sudden Joe Hendry comes out. And Moose is like, what are you doing out here? And he's like, you called me out. What are you talking about? Say his name and he appears. That's me. You got to believe in me. So it looks like we're getting a little side angle between Moose and Joe Hendry, which will be cool. Nothing else really came out of that, I don't think. Just Moose, saying he told you so.
Yeah, exactly, man. Moose tried to attack Hendry. Hendry moved out of the way, and Moose instead ran into a gargoyle spear from Gujar, who didn't get the win in the match.
Yes.
But he at least got to take out Moose at the end there. Then we had so you've already broken down the Mickey and Deanna match. That was the main event. But then we had that little Marvel, post credits scene where EY and Diener were back where it all began in that prison that looks like Alcatraz. And Diener swore he was willing to do absolutely anything to eliminate the sickness. And EY said, "What if the sickness was in this room?" And then the camera pulls back, and there's a shiv on the table between the two of them. The two of them start struggling for it, and I'm wondering where the hell this is going because I hadn't read any of the rumors yet. And the show ends with Diener stabbing Eric Young and presumably killing him. So, go
Eric Young
Impact.
and 2 dimes.
Unbelievable that Impact gives 0 Fs. They send people away in body bags. So the rumor is EY might be headed back to somewhere in the Stamford area. We don't know. We'll see how that works out.
Fingers crossed. He's too good to. I mean, I love Impact, but he's too good to be there.
Yeah, and he definitely could help bring some creativity to wherever he's going, and you could probably use a little bit more of that. So,
I'd like to see them pair him up with Nikki Cross on the main roster.
Sure,
because they had those sanity ties back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. But you can find somebody. You can between the two of them who are both kind of veterans. You can between the two of them. Obviously, you'd need more people in the group. They could put somebody younger or youngish in there and help make that person with the creativity and the veteran presence of the other two. So I like that idea a lot. Also on that show, we had Tasha Steelz, who's still pissed off at her loss at Overdrive, and she's kind of blaming it on Savannah Evans. And to make it up to her, she said that Savannah needs to take it out on one of the Death Dolls. So this week, we will get Savannah Evans one-on-one with Taya Valkyrie. How do you see that one working out, John?
That's a tough one to call, actually. I'll go with. I was gonna say Savannah, so I'll go with Taya because I'm usually wrong in these situations.
Yeah. Okay. So you went Taya. Just for giggles, I'll go Savannah because I'm sure Tasha will get involved, and so will probably Jessica and Rosemary. But I'll say Savannah finds some way to sneak it out because maybe I'm thinking too much WWE, but Taya is still a tag champion, and tag champions don't win when they wrestle singles. So
yeah.
let's go that way. And then lastly for Impact, we had Heath and Rhino backstage. They were approached by the Motor City Machine Guns talking about as they've spoken in the past, they couldn't wait to get a shot at those titles, did the Guns. And Heath said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. And it would be an honor to face you. And I'm going to go to Scott right now and make sure to set that match up." And then Rhino just went off on him. "You think just because I'm from Detroit and you guys are from Michigan, then I'm going to let you guys..." He was ripping people. He was going to rip their hearts out and rip their heads off and bleep down their necks. And anyway, we're getting the tag title match. We're getting Heath and Rhino, the Impact Tag Champions, against the Motor City Machine Guns, who I think are the New Japan Strong Tag Champions. But it's only for the Impact titles, and it's happening this week on Impact. Heath and Rhino, the champs, defending against the Machine Guns. How do you see that one working out, John Smith?
I think Rhino's going to back up his words. I think that the champs win this one.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the Guns don't need another set of titles. They since they're carrying the blue ones around on the Impact set anyway. So Heath, let's get a couple more defenses under Heath and Rhino's belt there. So I agree with you. That'll do it for Impact. We will now move along to the weekly disaster that is Dynamite and Rampage. Get ready for me to do a whole lot of talking and stumbling. Let's see. Last week from Indianapolis, we started the show with Jon Moxley in the ring, who I swear, I thought when this guy dropped the title, he was going on the vacation he was supposed to be going on when CM Punk got hurt and he had to save their asses. He was back. He said there wasn't a man within 100 miles with the balls to tell him that he wasn't the top of the food chain. And that brought back Hangman Adam Page. They started brawling. They brawled to the back. 20 minutes later, we got a segment in the back where we saw they were still brawling because, 13 people couldn't keep them apart. This week in Austin, Texas, we'll hear from Mox again. I'm assuming we're going to set up a match between these two that's not for the title, but it'll be fun one way or another. Moving along, we had a really good match last week between Bryan Danielson and Dax Harwood. That before we run out of time on the show, we're not going to bother breaking that one down much for you. But Danielson won with the label lock, and Dax had a hell of a showing as a singles guy. That led to William Regal coming out and introducing our new world champ, who took the week off after. Let me just do this. Where the hell is the AEW? There it is, the AEW logo. Who took the week off after winning his title, and he came out and basically told us that he's above all of us poors. And in fact, he was even above the AEW championship belt. So he tossed it out of the ring into the floor, and his manager, presumably William Regal, unveiled his new AEW title, which was basically the same belt, just on a really cool new strap that looks like his stupid scarf. He went on to basically, without invoking the name of Brock Lesnar, tell us, get used to it. You're not going to see a lot of me. And if you want to see me defend this baby, you're definitely punking down pay-per-view money, because I'm special and I'm going to be, when you see me, it's going to be a big event. We'll hear from MJF again this week in Texas, because at the end of his segment, after thanking William Regal for kind of leading him down the path and getting him to where he was, he took out the brass knucks and hit Regal in the back of the head, which, as we know, he has brain bleeds and neck issues. So I think this was their way of kind of killing him off, because there are also rumors of him perhaps going to hang with his former friends. But we'll see how that works out. All right, let's get on to something. Let's make a pick. How about that? We had a video segment last week of Sheeta. She is the Regina DeWave champion. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a Tokyo-based company. She's their female champion, and we got a nice video package talking all about that, just to set up a title match on it's going to be on Rampage this week. And it's going to be Hikaru Shida defending against the Bunny. John Smith, all that being said, neither one of us knows anything about this company, Wave in Tokyo, but is their champion going to lose the belt on U.S. soil?
I don't know. I guess maybe, because maybe they just want to be relevant somehow, so they want to have like a title. But it's the Bunny. So I don't think so, because it's the Bunny. I don't think they're just going to throw a random title from Japan on the Bunny.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Sheeta's going to retain, although I wouldn't put it past Penelope to be there to kind of help out the Bunny, but then someone, I'm sure, will have Sheeta's back, or she'll just take out her kendo stick and beat up everybody. So we'll see where that one goes. Staying in the women's division, Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker, and Rebel sat down with Shivani, and Hayter wondered why girls like Saray are getting sit-downs with Renee, and she's not getting any special sit-downs. Well, we're going to take care of that this week, because Jamie Hayter will sit down with Tony Schiavone. Boy, won't that be exciting. Also in the women's division, Willow Nightingale defeated Anna Jay. Even though Ty Mello was there to, try to screw things up, but eventually she got a forearm shiver to knock her off of the apron, and Willow Nightingale went back and hit the Dr. Bomb on Anna Jay, but most of that was more of a setup, because Ruby Soho returned to attack Ty Mello after the match. She dropped her on the ramp with her version of Sister Abigail that she calls Destination Unknown. The crowd went nuts, because I believe it was also her hometown, Indianapolis. I don't know if she works her way into the pay-per-view card this weekend, because she's got absolutely no connection with the Ring of Honor, but she's at least back, and maybe we'll see her on Dynamite face Ty Mello. Also on Dynamite, Jade Cargill and the Baddies were in the ring for the TBS Championship celebration, and god damn does Jade Cargill have a physique. As she was in very little, and she was showing it all off, and Red Velvet and Layla Gray were there with her, and Kiera Hogan, who has since been kicked out of the Baddies, had been hanging with them, so she chewed out her girls, Red Velvet and Layla Gray, for hanging with Kiera. There's something going on where she had words with little little bow wow, and they actually brought that to the Tron where he said he's done touring, so we'll see you real soon. I hope not, but it looks like it's going to happen.
Bow Wow versus Jade Cargill.
I'm assuming he's gonna have like some big, butchy female bodyguard who he's gonna send down to the ring against her or something stupid like that. Whatever it will be, I will probably be turning the channel because Jade Cargill doesn't need that. She has gotten so much better. Just let her wrestle. She does a good job. This week on Dynamite, we will get to see her wrestle because she will team with her baddies, Red Velvet and Layla Gray, and they will take on Madison Rayne, Sky Blue, and Kiera Hogan, the ex-baddie who recently got kicked out. Who do you have winning this trios match, John?
Oh, that's a must miss. Give me the baddies.
You know what? I'm going to say Kiera Hogan gets a win over, she'll pin either Red Velvet or Layla Gray, and that's how Kiera will then go after Jade for the TBS title. That's pure speculation on my point, but it just makes sense since she just got kicked out of the group. But if Jade just dominates the whole match instead, wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Last week on Dynamite, we also had match 3 of 7 in the Elite versus the Death Triangle Best of 7 series that will eventually be for the Trios Championship. I think what did we do? What did we say last week? Were you on the Elite getting their first win here, or were you with me that I said they were going to go up 3-0 and make the totally cheesy 4-win comeback?
No, I went with the 3-0.
Okay. Well, we were both dead wrong. They won with they were pushing the fact that Pac was injured, so he was wearing a mask throughout the whole thing, and he eventually went for the Black Arrow, and instead got caught with knees to the face, and then just rolled over into a pin. It was only 12 minutes, but it was a good match again because these 6 really can't put on a bad match. So it is now Death Triangle 2, Elite 1, and I don't think we get a match this week on Dynamite, but I think next week perhaps at I think it's winter is coming next week. Yeah. Backstage, we had the Jericho Appreciation Society sitting down with Renee. And then on the other half of the screen, we also had Claudio and Wheeler Yuta. And of course, it didn't take very long for them to get into it verbally. The Jericho Appreciation Society was acting goofy, so Claudio just got tired of the crap and walked off. And Yuta was left there alone, but it didn't take him long to get in the face of Daniel Garcia and challenge him, pardon me, for his Ring of Honor Pure title. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but what came out of this segment that will appear this week on Dynamite, Jake Hager and Daniel Garcia teaming up to take on Claudio and Wheeler Yuta in a straight up 2-on-2 tag match. John Smith, who do you got? Hager and Garcia, Castagnoli and Yuta.
I'll go with the Blackpool Combat Club on this one. They're going to be mourning the loss of their patriarchs, so let's give them the victory.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and Garcia and Yuta got a match coming up, so I don't think either one of them would take the pin. Claudio's got a world title match coming up, so he sure as hell ain't taking it. And there's poor Jake Hager. So I agree with you. The Blackpool Combat Club will take this one. Last week, the Rampage main event sprung out of a segment on Dynamite where QT Marshall was backstage with Shivani and Orange Cassidy. He told Orange Cassidy he wanted a shot at that All-Atlantic title. Cassidy, once again, said yes before QT even finished his sentence. And then QT tried to up it and said, I want there to be lumberjacks. And Cassidy went, yeah, cool, whatever. This led, of course, to the Rampage main event. And, of course, if it's the main event, they got the moment with Mark Henry beforehand. And I've never been much of a fan of Orange Cassidy, but please keep him in the main event so every week he gets to interact with Mark Henry because it's funny every week. This week, the QT and the, what do they call them? The Factory made fun of the Best Friends for never taking anything seriously. They all turned around and they were wearing lumberjack, wool caps and checkered shirts. And then they asked Mark Henry if it was okay for them to bring axes to the ring, which each of them had in their hands. Of course, he said no. It's time for the main event. Of course, Orange Cassidy defended. He beat QT Marshall with, I think he had to hit the orange punch 2 or 3 times, and he ended with a beach break for the 1, 2, 3. But more importantly, afterwards, the lights went out, House of Black appeared, beat the living hell out of not just everyone in the ring, but because it was a lumberjack match, everyone at ringside too. So, bonus, House of Black getting things done. Okay, Ricky Starks was backstage with Shivani, and he is going to be in the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal coming up this week. And he said, even though he's already got the shot at Winter is Coming, he's entering the Battle Royal because he wants to take everything from MJF. Because this year, they're very inconsistent with these things. The Dynamite Diamond Ring is not necessarily defended per se, but the person who won it is automatically in it the next year. And this year, because that person is the world champion, because it's been won 3 times, the only 3 times it's been available by MJF, he's not going to be in the Battle Royal, but the winner of the Battle Royal will then take on him. They will get a bye right to the finals for the Diamond Ring. And Ricky Starks said, I've already got a title shot, but I don't want to just take your title. I want to take your ring too. I want everything. I want your spot. So Ricky Starks then went out and beat Ari Daivari in 26 seconds. That gets us to this week, as I was just talking about, the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royal. Of course, we never know who the hell's in it, but in the graphic, we know at the very least it looks like it will be Jungle Boy, Dalton Castle, just so we can remember that he's part of Ring of Honor, Ethan Page, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage, I think it was Lee Moriarty, and Matt Hardy. Based on that, and based on the other 372 people that are on their roster, John Smith, who do you see winning this Battle Royal and going on to face MJF for the Diamond Ring?
I'm going to go with... See, that's a hard one, too. I'm going to go with Jungle Boy, actually. Okay. You know, that'd be fun because they could just serve that's an old feud between him and MJF, and you know, it'd be fun to revisit that. And then maybe Jungle Boy could actually he wouldn't beat it. He wouldn't beat the champion. It looks like MJF's gonna end up being a 4-time ring winner, but
yeah.
I'd like to see Jungle Boy do it because Ricky Stark's doing it. Like he's already got, like you said, that he's already got the title shot. So what are they going to do? Combine the title shot with the ring match, or is it just the ring match? Then he gets a title shot under.
So we're going to see them twice. Yeah, I agree. Although Ricky Starks really stands out here, I don't think he's going to be the one to win this because it's just, he doesn't have to get pinned to lose here. You just get bumped over the top rope and he's out. I'm going to go instead, and I'm going back to the well here because I've already been proven wrong on this, but I'm stupid. So I'm going to go with Ethan Page because the story kind of writes itself. He's been talking a lot of trash. He's finally been on TV consistently recently. His manager is Stokely Hathaway, who has a history with MJF. It just makes sense. I was wrong last time with that idea. Might as well be wrong again this time. I'm going to go with all ego Ethan Page. Also, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just said word. No, sorry. I know you're like, oh, wait, he's got something to say. I can breathe. Sorry, man. I know you do. You got a lot to say here, and I can't take anything off your plate. Sorry.
No worries. I know. Believe me, I barely paid attention to this. I did not expect you to, to do a deep dive into these two shows because there wasn't a lot going on. It's all setups because we got this big show coming up. Also on Rampage, Darby Allin took out Cole Carter, our boy Two Dimes, formerly. And then afterwards, backstage, he said that now that he's gotten personal scores out of the way, because you'll remember Cole Carter was the one who dressed as Sting and attacked him from behind a couple of weeks ago. He's gotten the personal stuff out of the way. Now he wants his TNT title back. One small problem, Samoa Joe's the one who's holding that title right now. Now, Samoa Joe is doing everything he can to avoid Wardlow, who he screwed over to take it off of, and is, of course, pissed at him. So Darby Allin said, I will make sure that both Wardlow is banned from ringside, and I promise you I won't bring Sting to ringside. It'll just be between the two of us, and it will be this week on Dynamite. Samoa Joe defending the TNT Championship against former TNT title holder Darby Allin. No Sting, no Wardlow at ringside. John Smith, how do you see it working out?
Oh man, I hope Darby gets choked so hard he pukes like Spike Dudley back in the ECW days. I got Samoa Joe destroying him. I hope it doesn't go 15. I hope it goes 3, and it's a ragdoll situation.
You know, Samoa Joe is a champ. I know that's not going to last very long, and Darby Allin is exactly the kind of guy you could see them putting the belt on, but I don't think it happens here. I'm with you. I think Samoa Joe chokes his ass out because that seems to be the only way he's lost recently. His only losses that I can remember was to Brody King when King held him outside the ring off the ground and just choked him until he passed out and then dropped him to the floor. So I guess his neck is a little bit can take a beating or can't take it. He's susceptible, let's say. So, yes, I'm going to go with you. Samoa Joe retains over Darby Allin. Lastly, on Rampage, we had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn to the ring for an interview with Renee, Lethal and Jarrett. They said cannot cut the line as much as they've been trying because the people want the Acclaimed to face the best. The Gun Club came out and said, well, we're the best. Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, and Jeff Jarrett came out and said, we're going to prove that we're the best when we beat Private Party later tonight. And they did beat Private Party later in that night, but that wasn't what anyone was talking about when they said the best, because as all those people stood up on the stage and yelled down at the Acclaimed in the ring, the best came walking right through the middle of them down to the ring, that being 7-star FTR. They walked in, basically said, let's do it, shook hands with the Acclaimed, and we're getting it this week on Dynamite. So set your DVRs, ladies and gents. The Acclaimed, your AEW Tag Team Champions, against the AAA Ring of Honor New Japan Tag Team Champions, FTR. But the only belts on the line here are the AEW ones, held by the Acclaimed. Do they lose them to FTR?
That's a tough one. They should lose them to FTR. Do they? I mean, like, FTR is widely recognized as, like, the best or one of the best in the world. So, like, how do they lose? I'm going to say the Acclaim pulls this off somehow, though. They're the fan favorites, even though the fans love FTR. I think they love scissoring a little bit more. So I'm going to go with the Acclaimed.
Yes, I am going to agree with you. In fact, I think because they're not right now, FTR are not on the Final Battle card, and Final Battle, it's a they're the Ring of Honor Tag Champions. So I'm going to assume that whomever is going to be their opponents, and I've kind of got an inkling it might be OGK or the Kingdom, whatever they're being called over there in AEW. Someone's going to interfere, cost them the match, and that will set up their Final Battle match. So I agree with you. I think Acclaimed hold the titles, although it won't be clean, but it won't be a flat-out disqualification or anything like that because they don't do that in AEW. Anywho, that'll do it for the AEW stuff that was just AEW related. Now let's get to the AEW stuff that's Ring of Honor Final Battle related, and that started with a segment on Rampage where Keith Lee was in the back with Renee. He was talking about his kind of on again, off again, or weird relationship with his tag team partner Swerve, and a very large man that I would bet 90% of the AEW audience had no clue who he was walked up. In fact, he's just as big as Keith Lee. His name is Shane Taylor. He's a former Ring of Honor TV champion. In fact, last year at Final Battle, he had a hell of a match with Kenny King. They called it the match without honor because the two of them had been cheap-shotting each other, and they got extreme in this. I mean, ladders got broken when these two started beating each other up. Shane Taylor, apparently 6 or so years ago, was a tag team partner of Keith Lee and accused Keith Lee of constantly walking away from family like he did from Swerve in their last tag title match, and he said he did from Taylor back in the day. So he said, get yourself a friend because I'm bringing JD Griffey, and we're going to have ourselves a tag title match. Not a tag title match, a tag team match, playa, at Ring of Honor Final Battle. And then as soon as Shane Taylor walked away, Keith Lee was standing there kind of, what do I do? Swerve walked up with a big smile with his grill in, and it looks like it's going to be Swerve in Our Glory. Wait, let me get this right now. We've moved on to Ring of Honor, and I think we've got graphics. Dun, dun, dun. Not for this one, of course. Okay, it's going to be Swerve in Our Glory versus Shane Taylor and his tag team partner, J.D. Griffey, both Ring of Honor veterans. John Smith, how do you see this one working out?
Well, I was under the impression that Swerve and Keith Lee were no muss. Didn't they have a little bad blood between them too? So I'm going to say that Swerve swerves Keith, and we get a victory for Shane Taylor and J.D. Griffey.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Last time it was Keith Lee walking away. Maybe this time Swerve walks away and leaves Lee there to get the crap kicked out of him by Taylor and Griffey. Okay, also back on Dynamite, again, coming out of that moment that we had between the Jericho Appreciation Society and the Blackpool Combat Club. We already know we're going to get that tag match on Dynamite, but on the final battle card, we are getting a rematch between Daniel Garcia, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, and the man he beat for the title, Wheeler Yuta. And the Pure title is on the line with all its wacky rules that go along with it. John Smith, how do you see that working out? Garcia, the champ, versus Yuta, the former champ.
That's the one where like you can only have like 2 rope breaks, and then there's no more rope breaks and all that stuff. Okay, I know.
Yeah, 3 rope breaks, no closed fists. It's
right. Yeah. I'll go with Daniel Garcia to win it just because he's, kind of a new champ, so I don't think they'll take it off of him right away.
Yeah, exactly. When Yuta had the title, he actually defended it on Dynamite and Rampage a couple of times. We basically haven't seen Garcia and this title other than standing next to Jericho since he won it. So I think Garcia will cement his run here by defending it successfully. I agree with you. Okay, back on Dynamite, we had a TNT Championship match between Samoa Joe and AR Fox, who we saw team with Top Flight a couple of weeks ago. It went longer than you probably would have guessed. It went about 6.5, almost 7 minutes, but it ended with a muscle buster and Samoa Joe retaining. Afterwards, Wardlow interrupted via the Tron to say he's coming for what's his. Well, he's not getting it this week, at least, because the next person on Rampage who came out and challenged Samoa Joe was Juice Robinson, who you may remember from Impact.
Yep.
And also, obviously, he made his name in Japan. Well, he is he's fully a free agent now. He's fully available, and he wants to make his name by becoming the Ring of Honor Television Champion. So he has challenged Samoa Joe. The match is booked. It's happening at Final Battle. Ring of Honor Television Champ Samoa Joe versus Juice Robinson. John Smith, how do you see that working out?
Big mistake, Juice. You don't come in here and you want to pick on one of the big dogs just to make a name for yourself, but not the meanest dog. Samoa Joe's going to choke him the F out.
Okay. You know what? There's still 2 more shows for me to be swayed one way or another, and I guess it'll depend on how much we see of him this week. I think maybe Wardlow just to screw with Joe. Like I said, I don't see Joe carrying around 2 belts for all that long. Mm-hmm. Maybe Wardlow cost him this title. That way, Juice Robinson's a fairly big name. He was the U.S. champ in IWGP, that belt that Moxley held and whatnot. So I could see them kind of using him as a cornerstone for the new Ring of Honor. Unless I'm proven wrong sometime this week. Right now, I'm going to say maybe Juice Robinson takes this one, and it won't be clean. I'm assuming Wardlow will get involved, but I could see Juice actually getting this title. Let's see what is left here. Okay, on Rampage, Athena beat some poor gal named Danny Moe in a minute and a half. But what's really important about that was she threatened to punch Aubrey Edwards again, which got her suspended. But more importantly, Athena will challenge the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, Mercedes Martinez, at Final Battle. John Smith, ladies title, who do you see coming out? Champ Martinez, challenger Athena.
This is just like NXT Reject Central right here. Holy crap. This match is going to be a snooze fest. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Athena to win this one, though. I think they're going to finally put some gold on her after she's debuted. Been here there for 2 years now, and they haven't put anything on her. So I'm going to go with Athena here.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? She just made the heel turn, so they're giving her a lot of attention. And again, we haven't seen Mercedes, I don't think, since she beat Bianca for that title. So yeah, maybe this is a way of getting someone who is under AEW contract to help build that Ring of Honor brand. So I'll agree with you here. I think we get a new champ in the women's division. Okay. We've got some other folks. So we've got one title left, one match left to pick, and it is for a title, of course. As I said earlier, we don't have FTR on the card yet, the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. I think maybe the Kingdom, but you've also got maybe Gates of Agony could pop their heads up. The Briscoes are not on this card yet. They are, especially on pay-per-view. I know a lot of TV channels don't want to put the Briscoes on TV, but it's Ring of Honor and it's pay-per-view. I can't imagine the Briscoes don't make this card. Also, Dalton Castle is in the Dynamite Battle Royal, just to remind us that he's a former Ring of Honor champion. He is also part of the 6-man tag team champions, Dalton Castle and the Boys. So I think maybe they get a spot on this card. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see them face Ya Boys 2.0 and Jake Hager, because there was a little back and forth between Dalton Castle and Hager over his very pretty purple hat. I think that might lead to some beef between them somewhere along the line, and maybe we get that tag title match. Willow Nightingale is a Ring of Honor veteran. She's also on this roster. Bandito, Roosh, probably not Gresham. Brian Cage, Gates of Agony, like I said. Look for them all to be worked into this card, and for the card that right now is 4 or 5 matches to more than double. But the most important match, the main event, the last one we have left to pick, your Ring of Honor World Championship. The Ocho, Chris Jericho, versus Claudio Castagnoli, the man he took the title from. And little extra impetus on the line here. If Claudio loses, he has to join the Jericho Appreciation Society and go back to being a sports entertainer. John Smith, how do you see the main event working out?
When he first lost it to Jericho, I was like, why the hell are they doing this? And now, of course, Jericho is a freaking genius, and I've loved everything he's done since becoming champion. So they put that on on Jericho's resume to have that belt. But I think Claudio's going to win it back, and he'll be a 2-time champion after this one. And all will be right with the world, because Jericho honestly should not have won it in the first place, even though everything he does turns to gold.
Exactly. When he won it, I was like, what the hell are they doing? But it has been thoroughly entertaining all along the way. But I agree with you. I think Claudio takes it back. And because I'm terrible at my job, let's talk about these picks that we've been making. Here are our Ring of Honor standings. Karl at the tippy top of the list. Not a lot of spread because they've only had the one show. But I really like the fact that Brian Roy is actually on the bottom of a list on one of these.
Yeah, I was going to say take a picture, like you don't have the picture already.
Here's how we're going to do it for this show. The world title, which is on the show, will be 15 points. 9 points for all the other titles, which at right now we have at the very least the TV title and the women's title. 3 points for non-title matches. 0-hour matches will count. And if you go perfect, the Hennig will get you 15 additional points. And that is going to do it for Ring of Honor, and that is going to do it for our show. But we got some bills to pay.
And we got some Raw roll-ups to take a look at first, right?
Indeed we do. Wow. 4 calls during the show this week. That's a new record, I think. 3 from the same person.
You should take one of the calls one day and just
it's like
what's so important that you keep calling back?
And why is it for 2.5 years I've been telling you not to bother me on a Tuesday? Anyway, our roll-ups this week. Mickey James, as we discussed, got that big one on Deonna Purrazzo, and Sammy got one on Shamo. That brings us up to that was the start of the week.
Impact's impressing a lot. They're at 44 on a 2-hour show.
I know, right?
No, an hour and a half, isn't it? Isn't it an hour and a half?
Impact is, I mean, it's technically 2 hours. You probably get an hour and 20 of actual programming.
You know what? I watch it. I subscribe for 99 cents a month on YouTube because I'm rich, and I get it available with no commercials at all.
Oh, sweet!
Hey, it's worth $1 a month. It really is, especially because I don't have access TV, so I would have to be watching it off of some, streaming website out of the Ukraine.
I don't know
information and
exactly. And you know what? I mean, that's just another reason to love Impact. Their monthly specials are like, if you buy the year in advance, they break down to like $6 or $7 a pop. Even if you forget to re-up and you got to buy it on the spot, I think it's only $10, and you're always going to get a good show. So let us put over Impact one more time.
It's a shame that somebody with money doesn't take over or get involved with that company.
Exactly. Although the last time that did happen, it worked out terribly. So.
True.
At least now they can't lose their TV because they're owned by the people who own the TV channel. So, your roll up leaders. Let's see. Nobody really moved up or down this list. Your roll up losers. I just love looking at that one with Miz at the top of the list.
Yep.
What else do we have here? Okay, now we can start the music and get to. All right, we did the roll-ups.
Yeah.
Let me find the right graphics so that we can start talking about.
The primetime rundown is back in its usual day and time as Joey Jarzinka, Ian Schreier, and Mike Zabo return to Friday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with everything you need to know in the sports world. Do you have an interest in becoming a sports reporter? Would you want to be asking high-profile coaches and players questions in person? Are you a college student looking to break into the sports media industry and looking to write about your favorite team? The Eastern Observer is looking for interested candidates to join the family for college credit. Look no further. Aspiring writers, social media specialists, content creators, etc. can inquire by emailing eosports3@gmail.com. We are looking forward to having you join the Eastern Observer family. The Black Cats NYC are the official band of the Eastern Observer. Check out their album Free Cake, their latest album, their classic album, their newest album. Available on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer, anywhere you get your music. You can get the Black Cats NYC's album Free Cake. Out now. Play loud. As always, the EWP is sponsored by Pro Wrestling Pick'em, the internet leader in sports entertainment, Pick'em Pools. Join us in the EWP public pool to play against us, or create your own private pool with you and your friends. ProWrestlingPick'em.com. Play against your friends, play against the universe. Join us back here next week for episode number 130. I'll get that right from one of these days. I always have to look at the screen to see which one we're on today. Back next week for episode 130 at 5 p.m. and all of our viewing options. And while you're here, it's still spelled H-E-A-R. While you're here now watching and listening, please make sure you like this episode and subscribe to the Eastern Observer to make sure you get updates on all our shows and news articles. It's all about the algorithm.
Yes, indeed. And let's take a look, since we're done with all the wrestling business. Look at that. The EWP with a clean sweep with us all taking the Dallas Cowboys. Boy, did I sweat that one for 3 quarters.
Yeah, especially when they were going for 2, about to tie it up.
That's right. And that gets us into, we are just sneaking up on them. We're now within 4 wins, although we're still taking a beating in the loss column. But we'll see how that goes along. I guess that's going to do it for the show. John Smith, anything we missed? Any parting words?
Parting words? No, I'm just excited for this new concept by NXT this weekend. I want to see how it's booked. I want to see if I actually enjoy it because I don't know how I feel about the concept yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the whole penalty box aspect of it and multiple falls and whatnot. So, yeah. Should be a lot of fun. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us. Let us remind you, Alexa Bliss, we love you. Larry Steve, always in our heart. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we wish you the best in all your future endeavors. Peace.